I said, we are not to be looking back. I said, I know how to do that stuff. I've seen that stuff. I've peeked into that stuff. But I said, we are not to look back. I said, the reason why, and they do this in some spiritual circles that are new to this, that do not understand the law or the price, is because you have something that is known as adventurous spirituality. People that are adventurous, they want to experience these cool, different things. But they do not understand that these can cause fractions. Like a bone gets fractioned, you can cause fractions in the consciousness. When I said that caused a fraction in your consciousness, because you were going back into a timeline that it is over, it is finished. You see, that is the issue with Lucifer. Lucifer is still operating from an old timeline when he used to be a ruler or the prince or the ruler before humanity was created and incarnated in this dimension. His consciousness has been disintegrating through the ignorance that he is still operating from the old epoch before. Oh, Frank, what am I doing? Now, so that's what happened. And so I told her what happened. I said, you were starting to get into some stuff that's not why your soul is called. That season or that day or era of that past regression is over. There's no reason in looking for that. You know, that happens to some children. This stuff is documented, you know. This happens with some children. There was a child that was 3 or 4 years old and kept on telling their mother that they were not their mother. And the mother kept on looking at the child strangely and says, what are you talking about? He said, I have another mommy. And one day they were in the car and the mother's driving the 6-year-old little boy, and he looks and he says, my mommy's name was Diane Johnson. And the mother looked at him and said, what are you talking about? And they thought he was getting this from cartoons and stuff. And then he went on to say other things because he would be looking for her sometimes. He said, where's my other mommy? And then one time he called out the street that him and his mama lived on. And so the mother was confused. She was one of those Christians. She thought maybe a demon got into the child or something, you know. How dumb that was. Until she did some research and found out that there was a Diane Johnson that lived on that street in the 30s. And there was a fire in that building where her and her child passed. She didn't understand it. And so that child had to get with a true prophet or a prophetess that had to let that child know to let that go. Somehow his subconscious mind was still bringing it up, and he kept on having these nightmares of fire, and the mother could not understand it because he was still holding on to that past trauma that he re-tapped into that was causing some issues. And so finally, they told the mother, this prophet, they said, take your child to the street so he can re-see it. And they took the child to the street, and the child looked at his mom and says, Mommy, this looks different, though. And the mother looked at her child and said, that was your former self. Now God has given you another chance to experience life here. And slowly the child, as he got older, forgot about that experience until he stopped talking about it, because he kept on revisiting the trauma. And the more that he would revisit the trauma, the more that he would only recreate it. You see, so this is why we don't revisit trauma. We don't re-talk about trauma. Not that we are hiding it, but we are to talk about the strength we gain from the trauma not the pain from the trauma. We do not want to continue to revisit that. Yes, I understand that some people have experienced long COVID, but I don't want to sit in a session where I hear people talk about it. Yes, I understand you might have been abused or you might have experienced some form of abuse. To be honest, everyone that is listening to me have experienced some form of abuse. Abuse is just misuse. Everyone has experienced it, whether it was from a family member, an older brother, an older sister, a teacher, someone in the workspace, someone you were dating, someone you were with. But everyone has experienced the misuse of power. Any misuse is abuse, but we do not dwell on these things. Think on these things which are good. Think on these things which are great. We do not dwell on these things. We do not dwell on these things, because the more that we dwell in it, the more that we impress it upon the subjectified mind and we recreate it. That lady, that girl, by the third time she brought up about her abusive relationship, that's when I put on that song, walk on by, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, walk on by. Some of these things, when you see a complainer or someone that continues to rehash trauma, walk on by, because they will rob you from your joy. They will steal the joy out of the room. Started to notice I would be sitting down, and all of a sudden I said, man, there's a heaviness here. I don't like this heaviness. Where's this heaviness coming from? When I sense a heaviness, I'm trying to find it. Who brought this heaviness in here? Who brought this heaviness in here? Sometimes I'm even like that because my partners that understand the law, they know better than that. They know better than that. They know better than that. They know that they do not want to be up there bringing that type of stuff. Now, it's okay to talk about what you learned and what strength it brought out. But we are not going to dwell on the pain and the suffering of it. You see, we have to get past the cross. At the cross, where I first saw the light. We have to get past the cross so that we can see the light. The power in the cross is in your ability to see the light from the cross, not to dwell in the sodomy, not to dwell in the sadistic nature of the pain. There is no beauty or privilege in pain. The only beauty and privilege in it is what you have developed and what you have learned through your pain. So it's okay to talk about what you learned. But we are not going to dwell on how you felt. And so when people do that and they're on my phone and they start talking and they start bringing up a lot of negative stuff and I don't see the productivity in it, I have to excuse myself because I have to minister to people. And if you dump it on me, then all of a sudden you are going to try to reconnect the trauma that I went through. Because let me tell you the truth. Everyone has went through trauma. Birthing anything is traumatic. When a child is being birthed, sometimes children, when they're going out of the mother's womb, it is traumatic. There's no such thing as an easy, gentle birth. Breathe in, breathe out, easy. It is traumatic. It is traumatic. Transformation is traumatic, people. There is trauma in it. Sometimes the baby looks all jacked up. My brother, when he had his boy, and I saw pictures, he was in the hospital, he had the camera out, and his wife was yelling and stuff. My brother, we're a very open family. We're a very open family. That's just how we are as the Jordan men. And so his wife was in labor. And my brother had his phone on and was videotaping and FaceTime, and his wife was ready to curse him out. Said, can you come over here and do something? He was so happy. He said, hold on, let me get the shot. I see the head. And he was taking the shot and taking the video and was sending it to the whole family. That's just the way how we are. He was so excited. And when the little boy came out, you could see some of the bruises from pushing and coming out of the canal because it is trauma. By the time the baby got out there, the baby was yelling and the mama was yelling because it is trauma. Transformation is traumatic. But we are not to dwell on the trauma. We are to dwell on the development of the transformation that the trauma pushed out. We do not dwell on sickness. We dwell on the strength of the Christ revealing himself as Rapha. And if he has not revealed himself as Rapha, you need to dwell deeper in the state of the Rapha. Because every trauma, every situation, every problem that is in your life is there to give you a new revelation of the Christ within you. Oh, yes, he came with breaking news. Yes, it was the breaking news, brother. He came with the breaking news. So this is very important that we understand this. So when she kept on bringing it up, she was cursing herself. And so we must understand that our words are either blessing or cursing. There's no such thing as in-between words. Your words are either blessing something or cursing something on the nature of the tone of the word. It is the tone of our word that creates the feeling of the blessing or the cursing. What does it say there in Proverbs 6?
Verse 1. My son, if thou be surely for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared with the words of thy mouth. Thou art
snared by the words of thy mouth. This is why the Bible says, let the weak say, I am strong. Remember, this is part of the law. You remember this is part of the law. Any issue or problem you are going through, you have become ensnared with your word. Whether it is your inner conversation or your outer conversation. Now, in my deeper courses, we teach this, that in our trance work, you will learn in my higher courses, and I'm probably going to get into this in my alchemy course, that you will learn that as you are falling asleep, you're going into a trance. And it takes time to learn how to watch yourself fall into a trance. But as you fall into your trance, you will actually hear the subjective mind repeating something. I was falling asleep and I was doing the technique that I'm going to teach in my private session. And I could hear what my subjective mind was saying. And some of it I liked and some of it I didn't like. And so some of it I'd say, okay, it's time to reprogram that. It's time to renew that. This is the secret of be ye transformed by the renewing of the mind. Be ye transformed by what? The renewing of the mind. This is law. God is the divine mind, and the law is in which thought operates from the divine mind. Woo! Ah! Oh, this is getting good. Let me say that one more time. God is the divine mind. When we talk about the Father, we're talking about the divine mind. God is the divine mind and the Christ, the Son of God, the Word that became flesh, or the thought form that turned into flesh. Oh, God.